Good evening. I'm Julio Elizalde, Artistic Director of the Olympic Music Festival, and thank you for joining us tonight for The Piano as Orchestra, music by Mozart, Beethoven, and Chopin. First, I want to just say thank you to everyone who's there with us as we're dealing with some of the finer technical issues and all of this kind of production. One of the things that we feel very strongly about is that the music deserves our respect, and it deserves to be presented in the very best way. And we don't want to release something when it's slightly under the quality standard that you've grown to know as part of what the Olympic Music Festival is all about. So for all of you who were waiting, we're sorry about the wait, but we appreciate your patience and your understanding. And so we're really looking forward to sharing this and all of our future events. First, this coming Wednesday, August 19 at 7 p.m., I'll be joined by cellist Matthew Zalkind. We're going to be talking about the cello in Beethoven and in Chopin, leading up to our recital on Sunday, August 23rd at 5 p.m., where we're going to be playing an early and middle period Beethoven cello sonata, and then Chopin's extraordinarily beautiful cello sonata in G minor. So we hope you can join us for that. Please remember to visit our website, olympicmusicfestival.org, to share information about our concerts with your friends, your family. It helps us a great deal. If we can spread news of this, this is free to the public, and we want as many people to be able to enjoy what we're producing. So also, next week, we're going to be having a discussion for piano trios, and then we're about to film the discussion with violinist Stella Chen, who was the winner of the 2019 Queen Elizabeth competition in Belgium. This is the same competition that Ray Chen won about 10 years ago, and you know Ray. And so please go to our website to submit questions for Stella, and things that you might be interested to learn about, especially she has a gorgeous Stradivarius violin. A lot of interesting things to know, so please let us know what you would like to learn during that discussion. And finally, I want to say thank you to the community of people who have come together to make all of this possible. This is a very different system, very different format than we've ever operated in, and a lot of people are going really out of their way to make sure that we have everything that we need. Fortunately, when the support is that great, you can just focus on the music. And so I just want to say a very big thank you to all of those who are coming together to help us to make this possible. So first piece on the program tonight. And actually, before I get to the piece, I want to just quickly discuss the concept, the piano as orchestra. Each of these pieces has something in common, which is that they kind of mimic the color or sometimes the texture of an orchestra. And I think, although I have a love-hate relationship with this instrument, at times I really enjoy it because you can do so many different types of things. And I hope that this program will show you a little bit about what the piano is capable of. And if you haven't had a chance, my discussion, my behind the notes discussion, is still available on YouTube, and you can learn about this program either now before you watch the rest of this, or you can also go back and learn some more about these pieces. So the first piece on this program is by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who needs no introduction. This piece is just spectacular. This is Mozart at his best. There is a famous quote that said that Mozart is sometimes too easy for children and too difficult for adults to play. I wholeheartedly agree with that. It is prohibitively challenging because the music is so perfect. There's no other way to say that. And I think that we spend so much time trying to master our instrument, and the music of Mozart, in particular on the piano, when the piano's alone, I think the piano concertos with orchestra are very different, but when you're alone on the piano, there is this kind of just clarity that it demands that can make you feel very naked while you're practicing, and it can be a very frustrating experience. But this work is one of his absolute best compositions for the piano, Köchel 333. I think the first movement, you hear that operatic music that Mozart was such a master of. You can hear the different characters on the stage. You can hear a line will come in at a higher register, and then you'll hear the same melody answered by a lower register, which I think is just trying to create the illusion that you're watching an opera on the stage. The slow movement, the second movement, is like an aria. You can totally imagine a soprano, almost moonlit. It's very beautiful, almost spiritual in its its inspiration. And then the final movement is very different than most of Mozart's piano sonatas for one particular reason. It is obvious that he is thinking about the final movement of many of his piano concertos, which usually begin with a piano statement, and then the orchestra repeats that statement, usually a more fun, more vivid presentation of that melody. Mozart is doing that, but just with the piano. So you'll hear, I'll start the tune, and then suddenly it repeats, but it's very full and much more rhythmic. And the reason we know for sure he's thinking of this is because at the end of the movement, there's something that we call a cadenza. Cadenza is a free-form improvisation. Now, in Mozart's time, it was customary that he would just leave a space there and a soloist would just improvise. But in this case, Mozart left us a cadenza, his own cadenza. We're lucky in the piano concertos, he left just a handful of them. And every time I hear one of Mozart's original cadenzas, I think you hear just the unbelievable musicianship of this man, that you can hear his ease of taking material of the composition, the main composition, and then just kind of spinning it into this exploration of different harmonies, major mode, minor mode. And this cadenza in this piano sonata is very similar. So you'll hear when I arrive, I play this big orchestral chord, and then suddenly the music returns, but it's not in the right home key. And there's a lot of little virtuosic flourishes. I really, really think this is some of Mozart at his most inspired, at his most fresh. It's so fun to play. It's a lot of work to get it to that point. But once you let go, it is really, really special. So here's Mozart's Piano Sonata in B-flat major, Caracol 333. So I hope that was fun. It's a great piece. I'm really happy to share it with you. So the next piece on this program is by the next composer chronologically, Ludwig van Beethoven. This piece, this is the Piano Sonata in E-flat major, Opus 31, number 3. And when I was a student at Juilliard, this is a piece that you heard a lot of people practicing. And it is a piece that is often used to fulfill a classical sonata requirement when you're competing. It's kind of a great work for this because in terms of the message, the musical message, this is not, let's say, one of Beethoven's more wildly adventurous or truly spiritual pieces. So in other words, there isn't perhaps as much at stake musically. And you feel like you can get to a place where you feel comfortable delivering the piece, whereas other, let's say some of the late piano sonatas are very dangerous to compete with because if you're not in that absolute inspired place, things can go wrong for you in the competition. But this piece, there's a lot of extremes of register, so really high stuff, really low stuff. And in the first movement, it starts in a really unusual way. In the Mozart piano sonata we just heard, the music begins very classically, very simply. Here, instead of just presenting a tune, Beethoven starts with a question immediately on a very unresolved harmony. And he explores that material, and then eventually the performance of the sonata really starts. And the tune is unusual because it's very lyrical, but there's always a kind of a humorous interruption. And, you know, as a pianist, often you feel like you don't have the right to play music like this in a funny way, but I think it shows Beethoven's character, that he really did have the sense of humor, that he could play something or write something that was seemed very almost majestic or very sincere, and suddenly in the middle of it, it just becomes pointed and just cheeky. So that's the first movement. And also, the other thing in the first movement that's really cool is that there are these little transitions of scales. They seem improvised. They're very hard to play, but they seem improvised, and you can see why Beethoven was so well known as an improviser. The second movement is really challenging to play as a pianist. I think this is where you hear Beethoven thinking of the orchestra. You can hear all the different layers of instruments that would be playing. It keeps going, it's fast, it's very brilliant writing, it's very exciting writing. And then the third movement, theoretically, in a large-scale classical sonata, there normally should be a slow movement. And here, instead of doing something like what you heard in Mozart, where it was slow and lyrical and kind of pensive, this movement is a minuet, a slow, very elegant dance. And I think Beethoven is, tipping his hat to his teacher, Haydn, who would often include minuets in place of slow movements during his symphonies. And in the middle section, what we call the trio section, which is the contrasting middle section of this minuet, it's very different because he's playing around with harmonies, he's exploring harmonies. I feel it sounds like, again, Beethoven's improvising. He's playing with material, and then he returns and finishes the minuet very elegantly. The fourth movement is a tarantella, an Italian dance. Tarantella comes from tarantula, so a spider dance, if you will. This is a really nasty movement, and I think, again, this is why this piece is used in competitions a lot, because it's very difficult, and if you can play it, it's impressive. I think one of the challenges beyond the notes is that Beethoven has very quick changes. They happen very suddenly. You have very little time to adjust. You can't prepare. And I think that's part of the fun of the music. That's why the piece is so successful. I hope I do okay. I hope you have a nice time. And this is Beethoven's Piano Sonata in E-flat major, Opus 31, number 3. Well, I am tired. I'm sure you are too. But thank you for listening to that. Before we go on to the final piece, I want to remind you that this is a very challenging year for the Olympic Music Festival. This whole situation in the world has turned everything upside down, and more than ever, we really need your help. We need to make sure that this organization runs healthy into next summer. We have an 88 key fundraiser. We're hoping we can find enough people to purchase each one of these keys at $1,000 a piece, and we hope that you'll consider donating. There are people who are teaming up to buy a key, and then there are some people who are already buying multiple keys, and we're looking forward to creating kind of a permanent plaque of sorts to show all of the people who came together to get us through this difficult moment. The Olympic Music Festival has always had a really important role here on the peninsula and in the whole Puget Sound area. We count on the help from everyone in the community. And while we know not everyone can drop $1,000 for a key, we hope that at least you might consider making a donation worth of the ticket price, $40. If enough people come together to do that, that helps us a great deal. We want to make sure that music continues, and we're so happy that we can share these concerts. And even if you can't donate, we hope that you might just consider sharing this concert with 5 people. We want as many people to know about what we're doing as possible. The performances will be available until the end of September. If you can share this, please do. It helps us a lot to spread the word, and we want to make this available to as many people as possible. So as always, we're really grateful for your support and for your continued commitment to our festival. So for our last piece tonight, Frédéric Chopin, one of the greatest composers who ever wrote for the piano. This is truly one of his masterpieces, the Ballade No. 4 in F minor. Now, a ballade, I think, he's thinking of a narrative, kind of almost like a tale that he's telling. The interesting thing about ballades, and he wrote 4 of them, each one begins a little mysteriously. You don't really know what harmony you're in, you don't know what's going to happen, and there is a sense of improvisation that you feel throughout the piece, that the music is not so obviously sectional, but you feel this organic development of how he's treating these melodies. I think that especially towards the later sections in the piece, and this is some of the most just truly beautiful piano writing, and it feels really good when you're working on it. It's very challenging, but I just love the way it makes the piano sound. It's resonant and really luminous colors. Towards the end, you can feel this rush of what I think is orchestral sound. He's thinking of watching one of these great bel canto operas and imagining, the fire on the stage and, the heroine, fighting for her life. I think that's so much what he's trying to capture. And the coda, the actual end, the absolute end of the piece, is one of the nastiest things that's ever been written for the instrument. It suddenly feels, the piece is challenging, but suddenly at the end, he takes it up to a different level. It feels a little bit like a stunt while you're playing it, but this piece is just, it just shows everything that Chopin was so gifted at, and it's a pleasure to share it with you. So here's Chopin's Ballade No. 4 in F minor. So that's it. That's the piano as orchestra. I hope you had a good time. I was so thrilled to work on this project. It was great to work on, and I'm delighted to share it with all of you. Please visit our website, olympicmusicfestival.org, to keep track of the upcoming events, to submit questions, and in particular, if you can, to donate. Please remember to share this with your friends and family, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. For my discussion with cellist Matthew Zalkind in preparation for our concert next Sunday featuring the sonatas of Beethoven and Chopin. So as always, thank you for spending your evening with us. It's delightful to be with you, and we hope you have a good night.